now. Okay. All right. So I like to introduce you to the Monday, September 29th meeting of the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee. Basically, there's an agenda out. Those of you who have gotten it, seen that there's a Zoom link to join, and you have joined. For those who were not able to join, this meeting is being recorded and will be on the town's YouTube page. Not all items listed may be in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Public participation is encouraged. Public comments may be welcome during the committee meeting and discussions at the discretion of the chair. So let's see. All right. So as the chair, I'm going to call the meeting to order. All right. Let's see. First thing we'll do is we're going to look at the meeting minutes. Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Did you use the AI companion, or did you just do that from your own notes?
I use some AI. That definitely helps.
Okay. Okay. I guess I know for us folks who are over the age of 21, the memory is not quite what it used to be, with everything going on. But excellent. Thank you for that. So for the members who have received that, any discussion on the minutes, anything they saw that they'd like to see changed?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of September 15th, 2025.
And I will second.
Excellent. All right. So any other discussions? Okay, great. So I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Layton?
Aye.
All right. Mr. Brenner?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Roy?
Aye.
All right. I'm going to blow it, Laura, but Ms. Brzezowski?
Good job.
Excellent.
And
Okay. All right. Mr. Scalambrini?
Aye.
And Mr. Gray?
Aye.
And an aye for me. Okay, so minutes are approved. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to open up right now for first public comments from the board. Any public comments from the board? Oh, okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment / broad question that I don't need the answer to this minute, but it came up speaking with a citizen of the town since our last meeting. It's my understanding that in past iterations of this committee have looked at other options besides just renovating the buildings we have. As we move forward, I would love to have more info on that because the question was brought to me. Why don't we look at building fresh on land the town owns, or potentially buying? We don't have much in the way of like appropriately set up commercial style buildings, but would that be a better choice for us for the municipal government in the long run? I don't need that answer this second, but that is a question that was brought to me and it gave me some thoughts, and I don't have the history on that.
Okay, so I actually like to address that because that's something I guess the newer folks to the committee, the original charter that was thought of was TC Passios to become the new center for town activities and town hall. For those folks who have been through the whole process, we went through an extensive process there. It was looked at it as both a renovation, a tear down. In my opinion, we got a little bit too, we have this many square feet, let's use it all. So that was really a lot of what was looked at. However, Passios was the first charter. After that, we also realized that, that kind of got into the idea that this town has a history of abandoning buildings. So if we moved to Passios, what was going to happen to Town Hall and Ritter? So that's when the shift of the committee focused on, what's going to happen with Town Hall and Ritter, and is there a way to really make Town Hall and Ritter work? That's, I would say, a lot of the history. Did we look at other land? If we look at other land, we get into that issue of what happens to Town Hall and Ritter. And what we deemed is I think what we saw was that Ritter has some possibilities for somebody else, but Town Hall, with its very limited parking, and very limited, and things of that sort, really didn't lend itself to being any kind of commercial space for much of anything, other than town functions and things like that. I hope that helps, Mr. Brenner. Oh, you're on mute again. Sorry, I hate that mute button. Nope. Go ahead.
It gives me a little bit of scope. I apologize. You cut out in the middle, but that wasn't you. I think between my wife and I, we're taxing our internet connection a little heavily with
Welcome
remote
to
meetings,
yeah, welcome to Comcast, right? I mean Xfinity.
which we shouldn't be with what we're paying for our internet package. But I'll go back and watch it and see. I expect I'll have several
Okay.
follow-up questions just to wrap my mind around it. So I
Okay.
feel comfy about the direction we're going, but that's fine. Thank you very much.
No problem. And I was going to say, Greg, Brian, Christina, I don't know if you had other thoughts of what I just kind of laid out there at all.
Well, just a couple. There were, previous to this committee, there was
Oh, yes.
there was
Yeah.
the TAPE study that and I think Dave might have sent around, that had a bunch of different alternatives that looked at building new, adding on various alternatives. Honestly, I don't have it in my forefront of my brain, but just that's a resource to take a look at. And then the only other thing I wanted to add is, in between when this committee proposed the renovation of TC Passios, we took a quick sidebar, 6-month sidebar, to look at what it would cost to build a new building on that site, on the TC Passios site. But I'll caveat that by saying, to Dave's point, it was looking at what it would cost to build a new building that had the whole program that we were proposing in the TC Passios renovation. It wasn't just limited to a town offices. It had town offices, community uses, PAC, the whole 9 yards, everything we had originally programmed into the TC Passios renovation. We were just studying the cost difference, essentially, for what it would cost to renovate TCP, or we were curious to know if it was going to be much more expensive to build new, and it indeed was a lot more expensive to build new. So that's all I would add.
The only thing I would add on top of Dave and Greg was, I think a lot of the community was interested in keeping it in the town center too. So that kind of limited to
Correct.
where we would go.
But the other thing to say is, I think one of the iterations of this, the changes in the charge of this committee, did open us up to look at it. It sort of gave us the license, if you will, to look at other sites. I don't know that we really gave that a deep dive, but and I'm not sure where we sit with the charge now relative to that. But I think one of the charges, sort of charge modifications, if you will, sort of broadened the real estate umbrella that we could view. So if that helps.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Excellent. Okay. Any other public comments from the committee? Okay, I'm going to go with, if there's public comments from the public. Go ahead, sir.
Hi there, this is Bill Tyler, 5 Graham Street. I'm also the curator of the Lunenburg Historical Society, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not representing the Historical Society. Just taking off from most everybody's comments, my comment would be also to at least consider other options other than the Ritter site. I mean, personally, I think 30 School Street is an excellent spot. You could start with a clean slate and not have to worry about renovating and remediating and restoring and trying to deal with something that's already there. I mean, I think to further take away the historical and architectural integrity of Ritter would be a big mistake. I would personally like to see that building put back to the way it used to be. So those of us who may have lived here long enough, like I have, that do remember what it looked like. It's a very historic building. But basically, I just like to have you know, the 30 School Street site, at least in the consideration and to see if that's a possibility. That's my only point, and I thank you for your time.
Okay. So just, Bill, just on that, I think the sentiment of a lot of the folks on this committee is to actually look to restore a lot of Ritter to its former glory. That it was the addition in the 60s that kind of took away a lot of the character of Ritter, with the changing of the door, you know, the changing of the entrance, and just the changing of the whole feel of that historic building. And would like to see it more of, you know, the actual front, the Ritter front, becoming more of a showplace and kind of a beacon for this town. Because in reality, it is the, you know, nicest town building. It's the town building that this town first built, right? You know, Town Hall was a freebie from the church, and Ritter was the first building that was really, you know, a building that this town should be proud of more than anything else.
Right, and one thing I forgot to mention, that I know one of the first comments from the committee would probably be, if we went with a new building, what are you gonna do with Ritter?
Right.
Nobody else wants another empty building. But I think if it was restored to its original size, it's a possibility. I don't know, maybe it's out there, but maybe the school department could use it for their offices instead of being shuttled from one school building to another. It's just a possibility.
Okay.
Thanks again.
No problem. Appreciate that, sir. Okay. All right. I'm gonna excellent jump in. Guys, I know we've talked a bit about what's our next steps, and what we want to do. We talked about the idea of, you know, we want to be, in the past, what it's been is that we've hired firms. These firms have talked to town offices, talked to town folks, and reported to us what they felt was needed and what that was needed. I sent a lot of information to you in regards to, you know, the needs assessments, the wants assessments, the iterations of this thing, the conditions of that, the conditions of this. I didn't expect you guys to study all that. I'm just giving that more as a point of reference, and I'm working on a website, a shareware site for all of us for that. So the real goal, you know, the goal tonight for me is to start looking at you know, the idea of starting to talk to the different town, of visiting the town sites. And I'll talk about that. I have some dates for Brooks House already. And then also, you know, coming up with a series of questions to meet with the different departments, whether it's they're joining the Zoom call or during a site visit that we meet with them, have some standard questions and basically come up with, here we talk to every department. Here's the 12, you know, whatever the number is, 5, 10, 15 questions. We've asked every single one the same question and work on a matrix to, you know, what we feel is the best way to organize and this thing. And the biggest thing we you guys all said is that we wanted to make sure that we included the town manager, that we included the town manager and the superintendent in those discussions. So I promise that both of them, that if they joined, I'd get them on stage fairly quickly and kind of explain what was going on and let them get off the stage and enjoy some personal time versus one more town meeting type of thing. So I see, Doc, that you're on. How would you like to be addressed for me, Dr. Fortuna, or?
You can call me Jody. It's fine.
All right. Okay. No problem. I just want, you know, I'm trying to be that formal PC correct guy that I've never been able to do till, you know, till my old age. Okay. So Jody, the idea we have is that, look, I know you've been drinking from the fire hose. You've just met your departments. You've just seen the interactions. You're just seeing that, but we're going to look at it as, in the end, it's a lot of this input is going to be how you perceive the future, how you perceive your team working together, and you perceive your interaction with the staff and things of that. What I'm going to address is one of the first things that we talked about was, you know, the last iteration of Town Hall had the ACE program utilizing, you know, quite a bit of square footage inside what would have been this new town hall. From seeing and listening to folks, and actually a lot of folks, it didn't seem like that was the best solution right now. And for that, one of the solutions we've been thinking of, we were gonna consider and look at, was whether the Brooks House made sense to make that as a destination for the ACE program. This giving it, since, as we mentioned the word house, it would give it a, you know, it already has a somewhat of a kitchen in there. It has another meeting room in there, and it does have some space on the upstairs. Talking to the the facilities director, it will need quite a bit of work, but our first thought was how you feel on the ACE program, whether you think it should be part of the schools, part of this new building with the administration, or could be its own separate entity.
So that's a very interesting question, because the program needs to be co-located with our director. And I apologize for my camera being off, it's broken.
Convenient? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't worry.
I brushed my hair for you guys and everything.
Okay.
It needs to be co-located with our director of special services. So as we think about the options, we have to think about, I really like the idea of Brooks House, mainly because it is a house. It would give our students that experience. But I'm also have some trepidation about not having my director of student services nearby. You know, she's right across the hall now, where I can grab her when things come up, and things always come up.
Oh, I don't know if it was me. I just lost you, I think.
My back.
Yes, you are. Sorry. Nope, lost you.
I can see her name.
Yeah.
Jody,
Yes, I'm here.
this is the other Tony Scullenbrini.
Hi, Mr. Scullenbrini. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. In the conversations that we've had over the last 3 years about the schools and the town administrative functions, I think that I had 2 questions for you. One is, where should the ACE program be? And then the second question was going to be, does the superintendent need to be co-located with the town manager? Because what we have to do is we have to decide whether or not school functions, you, the ACE program, your program director, need to be with the town manager. I've had conversations with the town manager, and she felt like you could be co-located in the town administrative center. And we've been talking about that being a combination of the Ritter and Town Hall. So the question, you know, that we need, there's 2 questions that need to get answered for us in order, I think, for this committee to move forward with regards to development of space for the town administrative function. And that is, are you co-located with the town manager? And how much of you, you know, and the ACE program and your program director need to be a part of that co-location? If it turns out that you don't want to be co-located with the town manager, then us managing a renovation / creation of new town administrative space requires a much smaller footprint than what it would if we have to bring you and the other elements of the education program into that co-located space. You know, from my perspective, you're not co-located with the town manager now, and I don't know if there's ever been a time in the history of Lunenburg where the superintendent of schools has been co-located with the town manager. You know, so if we keep school functions away from the town administrative functions, that footprint is much easier for us to define. and much less expensive to develop because it probably wouldn't require any new square footage. So I think that, you know, we've been, I've had conversations with other members of the school committee. Emily Young, she's been a part of the master plan steering committee with me. And, you know, I said, I think that the two questions that need to be answered for us to do our work on the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee is, where's the ACE program? And do you need to be co-located with the town manager? And I want to get those two questions answered. And I don't think we can do our job until those two questions are answered.
I can answer definitely for you the town manager piece. I don't think it's necessary for us to be co-located with the town manager for functioning. I think with the technology and texting and phones and email, the town manager and I right now retain a pretty good chain of communication. And with the town center being so close to where we're located, we're able to be there in a matter of minutes if some emergency or unforeseen circumstance arises. So I don't feel that it's necessary for us to be co-located. I think we would have to move all of central office, which we're a decent size group of people. Like right now, we currently don't have enough room for our new business administrator. The question of where ACE should be, it should be with our director of special services, because she's the named leader of that program. So she needs to be there on site for that program. But so I think we're going to need to continue to be located either very, very closely or located together.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, as far as regards the ACE program, you would want it either with the administration, the school administration, or in a facility very close to the school administration.
Correct.
Okay, okay. And as far as the rest of the functions of the school, yourselves and all that, how far do you want to be from the basic campus of this? You know, we look at we're trying to develop a campus. It looks like, it seems like Lunenburg's except for the primary school, has pretty much developed a campus. Do you want to be close to that, or does distance matter in that respect?
No, I would like to be close to the campus because I think it's very important for the superintendent. And in fact, all of my entry work has suggested that it's very important for the superintendent to be visible in the schools.
Okay.
And what that proximity gives me is a chance, if I have a half-hour break in my schedule, I can run to a school and make sure that I'm making those important connections with students and teachers. So I think it is important that our offices are close to the campus of Turkey Hill and the middle high school. Primary,
Okay.
there's nothing we can do about.
Okay, understand. That was before you had a say in things, so we won't hold that. Okay, excellent. Other questions for the committee? From the committee?
Yeah, just so I understand better. So you're saying that the ACE program and the Director of Special Services need to be together because she needs to run that. So that person needs to be where the ACE program is. That's correct, right?
Yes.
And that's a requirement. Just
It
so I
is.
understand. Okay. So there's no wiggle room around that. So the second question is, and that you would want to be with your group and including the Director of Special Services would want to be close by, easy access to those people.
Correct.
That would be your desire. Yeah. So the issue is that the ACE program takes up, when we were looking at it the last time, took up a lot of space in what would have been the renovated Ritter House new new town hall. And we're trying to figure a way to reduce the needed space. You say you don't need to be close to the town manager. If you need to get in touch with them, there's plenty of ways you can do that without being physically present. So would a special location just for the whole school program people and the ACE program sounds like aside from the town hall would be something that could be done. Would that be okay? Would that make
Yes.
sense? Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. So there's not a lot of wiggle room in that because all right. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure I understood completely what the limitations are.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Yep.
Can I ask a question? What
Sure.
would the ideal office look like for you? Would it be the plan that we had before where school offices and ACE were co-located with town hall, or would it be offices off of a school or on the school campus somewhere?
I think either could work as long as the proximity was close. My ideal would be to do a complete renovation of Turkey Hill and keep us here. But there's facility limitations. You know, there's only one adult bathroom in the building. That becomes a limitation for us being located here. So that would be my dream. But we could also have our own space that was close. The Ritter plan was great, but the town clearly, from what I understand, did not choose that option because of the size of the ACE program.
Yeah, and I just thought, just to help those folks who it wasn't fresh in their mind, this was the plan that we had proposed, that you can see on your screen. This would have been the lower, well, this would be the upper level. So this would be what you see today would be where the HR finance would have been where the building inspector is, superintendent is where the building inspector, admin would be, director of teaching and food facilities would be conservation and board of health. That's if you're familiar with Ritter today. And then the other level, which would be the lower, which is right now the planning department and the planning meeting room would be for ACE. And then there would be the ACE kitchen, which would be down, if you went downstairs, that's the ACE kitchen. And then what's right now today, the veteran services and the the facilities director's office would be other special services rooms right now. So as you can see, for the footprint, Jody, that this a substantial footprint was dedicated to the ACE program out of all the room that was dedicated towards the school.
Understood.
And that's why the biggest dilemma we have is whether ACE stays in that administration side, or whether ACE was a separate entity, because some folks talked about whether it was appropriate to have ACE in the town hall as if we looked at it as this is town hall, town business type of thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So I'm
I
gonna
have a question, Dave.
Sure.
If I can. Jody, and maybe anybody else that has any knowledge on this question, just dovetailing on your comments relative to your preference, or best case scenario comment that you just made, where we'd renovate Turkey Hill, full renovation of Turkey Hill, and have the offices in there. And pardon my ignorance, I should probably know the answer to this question, but do we have, if just today, do we have enough room in that building to do, like, if we were given a grant and we had, money wasn't an object and we could renovate, do we have the space in that building for, to do a good job, with central office and what we need it for programmatically for the students?
I believe that we do. We were able to find an art space, which was one of the things that was a concern with our move over here. So we have a dedicated art room, we have a dedicated music room, and we have a dedicated STEM room. We have the library. We have just enough room for the number of kids that we have today. So if we have a lot of expansion or move-ins, we definitely need more plumbing and facilities, and central office needs one more space.
Okay, so it's a little, I see, I got it. Yep.
Greg,
That's
Thank
right.
it was, we haven't talked about this as a committee yet, and I'm just one person. But so it's about 16 million for just getting that building up to standard. That's like bare bones, your MEP and the roof and all that and windows. But it was what I was thinking, and what I've come around to thinking is that if we do go for that, a Turkey Hill plan might involve a small addition to accommodate school offices in a way that works a little better. Because have you been to school offices yet at Turkey Hill?
I haven't, no.
We're waiting for a big tour, so no, I'm only kidding you. Go ahead.
My thinking was that if we were going to do a renovation, I would personally push for a small addition as well, to put in adult bathrooms with regular sized toilets, and adult bathrooms for teachers, because that's a huge concern. And maybe like connecting two wings so that we could have district offices, which could be sequestered off more easily from the rest of the school from a security standpoint, and just have an entrance that the public can find without having to be told how to get there. So
Yeah.
That was my thing. We have not discussed that as a committee yet, but that's what I would probably be pushing for if central offices are left out of the town hall plan. I think that an addition would probably not be inappropriate to Turkey Hill to accommodate central office.
Okay. Oh, okay. Christina, I got the hand up, so I'm gonna let you come on with the.
So I have a question, because I think we're kind of circling it, but no one's saying it. Like, I know before with the previous superintendent, she was very adamant about being in the town office, but are we now trying to solve a problem we don't have? Why are we going to put money into the Brooks house to fit them in there if that's, from what she's saying, not the desired location? She wants to stay close to the school campus and students. So wouldn't the money be better used for that project? Like, the biggest complaint the town has told us is we're tired of spending money. So why are we going to put money into a house that people would rather see going to the school at the end of the day?
By the way, I think that's the main, I agree with you, Christina. And the fact is that's the main reason for these conversations, is just to understand, where I think a big thing of this committee is not looking at today, but looking, trying to think about the future more, because the last thing we want to do is 10, 15 years from now, have another committee to talk about building design for town hall or some other function again, because life has changed again. So the thought is I agree with you. The thought is to do things as best we can. Laura, on the idea of if they're going to do reno, if they decide that the whole idea is that the state of Massachusetts has amazing free money available for new windows, as long as you dedicate it to be a school for 20 years, it's free. So, I know you're not the person, but
it's not anymore. It's for the life of the building.
Right. So, but that's the idea, is that as long as it's at least 20 years, they're okay with it. But
That's a different standard. It used to be 20 years. They're now saying the life of the building or the life of the renovation, and that's not clear what that means. Now, Laura, I only know it from the capital planning side, so you can correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding, please. But it's an issue where, okay, we have windows on some of these buildings that last 50 years. Does that mean we're committing Turkey Hill, for example, to be a school and only a school for another 50 years? We don't have crystal balls. We have no idea what the town or anywhere looks like then.
I don't think that's clear, at least it's not clear to me.
Mhm.
I think in 50 years, they won't care, or in 30 years, like, what are they gonna do? But I think that it does prevent us from doing things like fixing all the windows and everything at Turkey Hill, keeping it as a school for 10 years, if say it was 10 years, and then turning it into a community center after we've taken our state money.
Correct.
So I think it does rule out that option. But, and it is money from the state. It's not always, they prioritize different things. I'm not entirely familiar with it, and we're gonna have to get real familiar with it, but they prioritize different things. For example, when we do the renovation, they're not giving money right now for gas furnaces, but that's what we have in the building, and that's probably what we would continue using, but they want heat pumps. And if that's not what makes sense in that building, that's still not what they'd want to fund, because they're focusing more on what their priorities are.
Okay, so Laura, I'd love to have this I'd like to meet with the school at some department at some time and have them introduced to some folks to talk about that. But, you know, as my green committee hat, but we'll hold off. I think we're going a little bit, guys, I think I like the conversation, but it's going a little bit off topic of what we want for tonight per se. Okay.
And I asked, sorry to Dave to cut you
Sure.
off. I guess there's two questions I have for my statement that I just kind of thought of. Is A, if we decided to, like, if we got started on our project, we wouldn't be years down the road the way our town works and funding works and everything. So how long, like, is it something we'd bring to the school committee to see if they'd leave them in that building, or is that something we have to ask to be removed from our charter? Or I guess even to Jody, how comfortable could you see yourself in that building for the next 5 years if it's decided you guys are going to wait it out until the renovation or a new Turkey Hill is? Like, is that something you'd be okay with if we removed you from the charter or asked to because you'd rather stay with the schools?
That's something I'd like to discuss with the full committee. I think that my opinion could be one thing, but there's wisdom in the minds of everyone. We are fairly comfortable here right now. I think we're planning for about a 4-year stay, but that is something that I'd like to discuss with the whole committee.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that would change what this committee's function would be if the school people are saying that ACE and central offices are going to be part of the school, Turkey Hill for foreseeable future. Then all we have to do, as far as what our original plan was to, at least phase 1 was to renovate the current town hall to make it ready for the next 100 years, and to provide enough space for the new town hall, which would be the Ritter, for the space that we would need. And that would be far less than what we originally planned for and asked for money back in May.
True,
So-
but you think about it also, like, the town doesn't want to spend the money on it. So not saying we're moving them to the charter and kicking them to the school committee, to the school side, but that significantly reduces our footprint and makes our overall budget a lot less. Because I don't think we'd walk out of Brooks House very cheaply if we put ACE there. And if they want to go there, that's fine, but we just have to, I think we need to explore options. And if they want to stay in the school, why are we going to force them out of the school?
Well, I don't
I-
think the school was very, I think, the superintendent was fairly clear that it's a requirement that the special, uh, special, education services, person be with ACE, and the superintendent needs to be with that person. So you would have to put him in the Brooks House, which would be a non-starter. So I think our original thought of the Brooks House for ACE is probably not something doable based on the size of the Brooks House and the requirements of this superintendent and the central offices in ACE.
Yeah, it would change everything.
Yeah.
So that's,
All right, Tony, I see your hand up. I'll give you a
Yeah.
quickie.
Dr. Fortuna, thank you very much for answering the two questions. And I think that it is a milestone event for the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee, because now we know that the town administrative functions are not going to be mixed with the school functions. And I think it will, we were building new square footage at the Ritter building because we were bringing in the school superintendent and the education program known as ACE. So now we know that those two pieces really make more sense to be in a school footprint rather than a town administrative footprint. And it's going to make the work of us developing that town administrative space, I think, much easier to do. Now, Christina, you mentioned that the previous superintendent wanted to be co-located with the town manager. I don't ever remember us having a conversation in the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee meetings that said that that was the case. Now, maybe Dr. Burnham did want to be co-located with the town manager, but I don't ever remember hearing that conversation, take place in our meetings. Now, Dave, I think that for us, we now have a much easier path forward. That this, like, what we need to do now is make sure that we clearly understand what's the requirements for town administrative functions. And then the school committee, I think on the same time frame that we're working to come up with the requirements to satisfy the square footage for town administrative functions, I think that the school committee needs to do its work with regards to ACE, the school superintendent, a renovated Turkey Hill. I'm not sure that we would need to add more square footage at Turkey Hill. Clearly, renovating Turkey Hill is in the cards. I mean, no one who's a citizen in Lunenburg rides by Turkey Hill and is not aware of the fact that that school needs renovation. But I think that what Dr. Fortuna has given us is some pretty clear direction that she wants that her program director to be close to her. She wants to be close to an education facility, and the ACE program needs to be with the program director and not in square footage that we've been trying to renovate for town administrative functions. I think we have a much easier path forward. The last thing I want to mention is that, the Brooks House, we have, the APDC had asked the select board to sell or lease the Brooks House. And we haven't changed that position. And I don't think the town has changed that position. When we were bringing the $22 million project, to the voters in May, we were bringing that project at the same time we were telling the voters the Brooks House has a strong potential to either be leased or sold. Now, the preference is not to sell it because for some strange reason, people want to keep that square footage of real estate, that half acre that the Brooks House is on, in the ownership of the town. Personally, I don't. I think that we could package the Brooks House in 925. You could create a package for a developer to do something interesting with property that the town currently owns, but could give away and make some money via taxes after it's been developed. So we're not Brooks House is, I've not been a proponent to say the Brooks House without a clear use, and we don't have one based on the conversation we just had with Dr. Fortuna.
Understand. So, guys, I think the biggest thing we have here is, and Jody, is that this has been very helpful in how we would think about our charter. But one of the things this group talked about is that the only way we're going to succeed is that if we talk about a plan for the town moving forward, that we can't just say this building, that building, or we can't just say town hall, Ritter, Brooks House. That, you know, the idea of a time frame for Turkey Hill is part of our conversation. You know, that the only way this succeeds is if we have we've given the voters a clear time frame of what's happening to their paychecks over the next 10 or their taxes for the next 10 years type of thing. So this is real helpful. It also would help probably because it would probably expedite the Brooks House, I'm sorry, Turkey Hill quite a bit, knowing that you know, this is this is your destination, and that we need to do something a lot quicker. You know, in fact, I'm one of those folks that when folks told me that it wasn't age appropriate, they kept on thinking that it wasn't age appropriate for the kids. But what I'm hearing today is it's not age appropriate for the adults, which is a big difference than age appropriate for the kids. Because to me, the kids is I get rid of water fountains and I drop the urinals from, you know, half height to full height urinals, and boom, I'm done. But the fact is that you're telling me, you know, I get a different understanding, a clearer picture. But the biggest thing I think this thing's is for all of us is how much we need to see the buildings. You know, what we need to do walk around, see the buildings, and as a group of citizens that actually care, and I hate to use that term because I'm going to get yelled at by everybody who's watches this video that you know, might not, but as the group that obviously cares, I think our opinions matter a lot. And we do have a clear picture of what people go for and don't go for in this town. So
Come
excellent.
over anytime.
Well, we'll be talking about that, but we're going to be, you know, it'll be in mass, and we'll definitely like to talk to your group a lot more as we go forward. Our goal is to have a picture going forward. You know, there's this, stop looking at a 2-year, 5-year plan. We got to look at a 10, 15, 20-year plan for this town, because, you know, it doesn't always work.
Dave,
Okay.
I do want to
I-
say that Turkey Hill is an ID. It's also not age appropriate for the kids that are in there either. Like for example, I got one that couldn't reach the top of her locker because it's middle school. It was designed as a middle school.
I understand, Laura. I understand. I say tongue in
Oh
cheek.
no, I'm
but-
like, because
right.
I'm going to have to sell this to the town when it comes time, and like, you know,
and
with the Turkey Hill run.
And half the thing is I wonder about lockers anyhow, because I see every kid with back problems now because they're carrying around a backpack that weighs 50 pounds. And I'm like, who the heck, you know, how many of these books get looked at? Or are they just transporting books from, you know, and that's the deal. Anyway, that's another topic. Okay. Other questions for Doc, for Jody?
I have
Sure.
a question for Jody, if I may.
Sure.
So I 100% hear the desire to redo Turkey Hill and keep central offices there. I get that, and I understand why that would be our first choice as we go forward. But I want to make sure I understand what all of our options are. To that end, two things. One thing I heard earlier, Jody, I thought I heard you speak positively of the previous design that went before the voters in May and ultimately was turned down. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. And then when I looked at the plans, it made me go, oh, all of those needs are met. Thank you. All of those needs for central office are met, and ACE program are met in the current footprint of Ritter as it exists now. I would never encourage Ritter just remaining as it is now without substantial renovation, because that building needs it desperately. But do I understand that correctly? And if that's the case, would it also be acceptable to consider moving central offices to Ritter? Or is that really a non-starter for you?
It's not a non-starter. It wouldn't be my preference, but it's not a non-starter.
Oh, thank you. I used to be a teacher. I get why you want to be with the schools, and I think that's likely the much better choice for us. Just, I saw that lineup so sweetly, and I went, I want to make sure I have this in my back pocket too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that, you know, like where we're on this screen right here, where you're showing the superintendent's office. I mean, that's a pretty, I mean, I get that's a merging of a couple different spaces that we have cordoned off today in the Ritter building, but that's a pretty narrow spot. My point is, I think you could, we were intending on, doing a major renovation and things in here, but I'm not certain that the space is really going to work as well as it could in a place like Turkey Hill, with a assuming that you're going to have a comparable renovation. I haven't been in Turkey Hill to see the exact space that they're using, but I'm guessing it's more along the lines of what, if the, like a, classroom type space. So you have bigger spaces that, can be renovated perhaps a little bit more easier, but it's just me.
Greg, I do want to clarify, and just for everyone, I did want to have that info. That isn't
I
the
get it.
position I expect to advocate going forward, but
I get it, Matt. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to
I understand.
pigeonhole you.
no worries.
Yeah.
So I just have a question. I know we're all pretty excited about the fact that we can separate the two, the school and the town. But Jody, sorry, it feels weird saying that. Jody said she wanted to talk to her offices and make sure that they were okay with that. So I want to just make sure we don't skip that point and that we have somewhat of a time frame of when she'd come back to us being like, yeah, we want to stay, or no, please keep us in the plans.
And I know Dave wants to move on from this topic, but just really quickly, I think it's also important to note that we're going to pay for this I think, unless I'm missing a program here, we're going to pay for this 100% out of pocket. Okay, so I hope that there shouldn't be any notions that if we put this renovation or the central offices and combine it with a larger school MSBA type of project, MSBA will pull that work out and will not match us for that work. Almost certainly. So we are not going to cost share on any of this work. So it may make sense to put it there. Logistically, it may make sense cost-wise, but we're probably not likely to participate in, have any sort of MSBA or whatever they call it now, if it's different state sharing in a school project.
Would that be for the ACE program or for
I think
central offices, or just?
I'm not certain about ACE, but like, for example, when I was on the committee, I think a lot of people know, I was on the committee for the Lunenburg Middle High School project. There were so many things that they did not participate in, like the most obvious is the greenhouse program, right? It's a direct school program. The state didn't fund it at all. We paid a 100% cost for the greenhouse, and I would imagine that central offices would be similar because it's not a direct program to the actual programmed use of the school. I could be wrong about that, but I just want to, that was my experience in the municipal, in the middle high school project.
But we would have paid 100% if we would have had them in Ritter too.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's going to be more expensive. I'm just saying we shouldn't think that there's any opportunity for less, perhaps there is, but I would imagine the state's going to carve that out.
Let's put it this way, town participation is the same either way.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah,
That's true.
not doing central offices in this project does not necessarily save us money. It just makes
That's
this
correct.
particular, because then now there's still that problem to be solved. So
That's
that's just important to keep in mind, because I feel like I'm like, oh, now we can get a new town hall built for cheaper if we can get rid of this square footage, but the need is still going to be there and the town is still going to have to foot the bill. It's
That's
just, it'll
correct.
be easier for this piece of it, which I don't know, maybe this town has a history of preferring our projects in little pieces instead of a more cohesive plan. I'm thinking of the 2004, the library and public safety in the primary school. So
Agree.
We-
All right,
we-
guys,
Just
I'm sorry.
because
Go ahead.
the prior superintendent, my recollection, just so we're all on the same page here, was that she wanted to keep her offices out of the schools, and that's why. And then ACE had to follow, as we just talked about. the central offices. So that's why they were originally in the Ritter program. So now the new superintendent is saying that it's not necessary, and she wants to talk to the school committee and hopefully get back to us. But I think that is the major change, is that it is the perspective of the superintendent and hopefully the school, maybe the school committee, that they want them in the schools rather than the prior superintendent wanting it out of the schools.
One sec, Dave, on that. I'll try to be quick. I think that when the committee was formed, the school offices were in the TC Passios building. This committee was formed as the TC Passios Municipal Design, whatever it was, but it had TC Passios in the name. I think that the reason why our charge said town hall, schools, and community uses was because that's what we were using the building for. And we were envisioning a renovation of the TCP building. So I think that when you've advanced through the process and our charge expanded, I think the thought that schools were co-located with the town hall was essentially a carryover from that notion, and it was presupposed. I don't think we ever. I agree with Tony completely. I don't think that the superintendent ever said that she had to be co-located with town offices. I think that, and I don't think we ever asked the question. I think we just presupposed it.
We did not.
Yeah, because
Yeah, we did not.
that's the way the whole committee started, and we just sort of just rumbled along on that precondition, if you will. So,
well, I think it was a different question. I think the question was, do you want it in the schools rather than with the town offices?
That may be the case. I don't remember.
Yeah,
Tom.
I
don't remember
Dave,
that.
I remember you asking that question, and that's kind of where this is back when I joined the committee. I was part of the I wasn't in the first group, the TCP. I was in the second, and I remember hearing that.
I remember that there was no room for it in the schools. I remember that.
Right. All right. So guys,
Anyways.
I look at this. I promised I'd try to keep it to not make it a evening event for our superintendent. So I think this was a lot of good information. It's stuff for us to stew on for a little while, and I definitely appreciate it. Jody, I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening. It's only 6:30. You can finally, hopefully, move on from town stuff, but I doubt that's the case if I know you. But happy to join, and we will continue to have you. We want to continue to have you in the conversation. Just this was helpful to get your opinions and things of that sort.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Bye-bye.
that. Bye. Okay, so I see iPad 2. By any chance, is that our town manager? I don't get, if you are, you're on mute. If not, I'm going to assume it's not. So she mentioned trying to be able to join, but had some oral surgery today. So I will forgive her if she wasn't able to join for some reason. Well,
Dave, where's Chris at? Where's Chris Ruth at?
So that was my next thing. Chris couldn't make it. He had the family obligation tonight, but I did talk to Chris, and we set up two dates for a possible tour of the Brooks house, one during the day, one at 5:30. So I was going to give you guys those dates at this point. So more than happy to discuss that if you'd like as our next item on the agenda.
I think the Brooks house is, I have no desire to go through the Brooks house.
Well, you've seen it. You've seen it.
But here's the reason why is that, we have a track for the Brooks house. What was voted on at special town meeting, a report that was given at the annual town meeting. And I think that if it's not going to be used by the ACE program, then it should stay on that track. And I think that, we can go look at it, but I think that it has a much different use given Dr. Fortuna's comments.
I agree with you. However, I do also look at one of the possible use was to lease. In order to lease, I think we need to understand what it would take to make that a usable building.
Lots of money.
And that's the whole thing. So I'd like to give the facilities director, Mr. Ruth, a chance to meet with all of us to discuss what he feels about the building, to get it ADA compliant, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and what it would take for the town to lease it. Because it might be that it's not even viable for a lease. If the money's doesn't make sense, to dump $1 million in it, to lease it for $2,000 a month I would call that a long-term investment, to say the least. Or something to that effect.
When we had conversations at special town meeting, if you go back and look at the presentation that was made, it was not to spend any money by the town on the Brooks House, other than maybe a site survey and a deed development so that you could segregate that property from the rest of the town property. It was what was presented at special town meeting was a way to minimize any town expenditures, so that we could develop, create a development agreement that says, here it is. If you want it, these are the terms and conditions that we have for you to develop the property. But other than just coming up with $2,000, $2,500 to do a survey and a deed, that was it. And that's and we're still on track for that. That's not changed. That's pretty much what the select board briefed at the annual town meeting.
All right, so let me just ask, as I go around the board, just ask, if you want to have if you want to throw that little show of hands for folk, if you want to do that, raise your hand for folks who are interested in seeing and getting a tour of the Brooks House. Okay, for those who are not on camera, I'm going to ask if you can do the raise hand function. Okay. All right, so I think it's turning out. So here's the 2 dates. So it is available for a tour Wednesday, October 1st at noon, and Tuesday, October 7th at 5:30. Okay.
Oh, tomorrow,
No, not tomorrow, but Wednesday at
Wednesday.
noon. And I'll send a note out. I'll send a note copying everybody and Chris with the 2 dates.
what was
could
the
do
other
either.
date? What was the other date?
Tuesday, the 7th of October at 5:30 p.m.
Are we picking which one is?
I'm saying to you, you guys, what I've done is I've tried to set it up so there's one for during the day, who those are able to make it, and there's one in the evening for those who want to make it. Okay, and that's what I was able to do. So I'm not going to worry about it. If 4 people show up during the day and 12 people show up at 5:30, so be it. I'm not going to look at it as we're trying to get a group together and go in mass anymore. It's going to be, everything's going to be like, for those who can make it, and that's about, and you have a couple of options.
One October. What are the 2 dates? 1 October.
1 of October. So this would be this Wednesday at noon,
Noon.
and Tuesday the 7th at 5:30.
So these are set up already. We just have to go and attend one of them if we want to.
Correct. Or you can attend both if you feel.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If us retirees have the time, which none of us do, you can attend both.
Right.
Does that not, either one of those dates not work for anybody?
Who wants to go?
Yes, anybody who wants to go, does either one of those dates not work? And he's open for others. I just felt this was 2 easy ones for the group. All right. Well, that's the Brooks House deal. The rest of the meeting, I'm going to give it myself a maximum of 25 minutes. We were going to start talking about questions we'd like to be asking when we go around. And the goal I'm going to look at is that let's have a, at the end to develop a spreadsheet or some kind of matrix from the different departments, understanding adjacencies, understanding number of people, understanding how they want to work, understanding their interaction with the public, and things of that sort, so that the space use could be best done. We've heard a lot of things today. I am going to share once again. Share. Okay, so if you look at things, I can make this. Can now see my application. Great. I can make this a little bit big. Actually, I can't make it bigger because I got too much other junk opened up. Minus. Okay. So this section on your left, my left as well, was the town hall offices. So we had basically everything on the first floor. On the second floor, upper floor was going to be town manager, planning department, conservation, a building inspector, things of that sort. So the first floor was going to be more like accounting, town clerk, and things of that sort. I don't necessarily agree with all this, the way it might be set up, but I'm not going to ask that right now. The second floor was more of folks who want to go get a permit or other things would be going up to the second floor. And then the lower level created a space for PAC and, well, a mechanical, MEP, I assume is mechanical room, for lack of a better term. So, obviously the footprint is quite different. What we want to do or what we can do. I believe that this rendition of space was done based on what the department said as wants, I should say, versus what we might see as our needs for this renovation. So, go ahead.
Can I ask a question of the people who've been on the committee? And I want to phrase it delicately because
don't phrase it delicately. We're all big boys here and girls.
Why is having town hall all in one building a need and not a want? I understand the reasons why, and I agree they make sense. But what was it that pushed? What were the considerations that pushed one conjoined town hall from wants to a need?
So I'll throw it in at first. Greg, I'll let you join in as obvious. I get to be chair now, so I get to do this first. I can act like Mr. Jeffries. The fact of the matter is, I look at it as it was seen as the interaction of the town. It was basically the town manager had two facilities that they were having to go work through and things like that, or just a simple thing of if you wanted to go get a permit, you might have, or something to do with having to pay, you had to go to one building, get your paperwork, go to the other building, pay your money, go back to the first building to get your, certificate or something like that. But it more had to do with it's a town, and that the town administration should be a unit that works together more than anything else. And especially now when we're looking at filling vacancies and things like that, how much of the electronics age, how much of these things, what is the dynamic of the town hall going to look like as we move forward, type of thing. Greg, how'd I do?
Good. I have two things to say now that
Sure.
you've commented.
Sure.
My response to Laura's question was not necessarily to answer it, was maybe to be a little bit more political. But this I think is in the category of in the spirit of what I said earlier. The reason why we were looking to consolidate town offices into one roof is because that was what the article said in 2019, when they founded funded the the first study of this committee, and the select board chartered us. Fast forward down the line now for 5 years, and we have definitely just carried that, that mission forward, perhaps without giving it enough, follow-up scrutiny. I mean, one of the things that's happened in the last 5 years is that, and I can tell you this from experience as a person in town that files land use applications, it is all done 100% online. You don't have to walk around anymore. You don't have to file plans. You don't have to even go get a certified abutters list from the assessor's office if you don't want to. They'll do it automatically for you through the OpenGov system. So things are changing. I'm not saying that the consolidated office isn't a need. Still, it might be, but I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. And I get that we don't have the town manager with us tonight, and that's fine. But we need to engage the town manager on this point.
Yeah.
Programmatically. We need to understand what she thinks about this issue, because things in town are changing. Personnel has changed significantly over the 5 years that or 6 years, whatever it's been, since we started this process. The way we do business in town is changing. And, I think we should, this discussion about questions and what we're going to ask departments, I really think we got to be careful to make sure we do it with the town manager, at least. I think she needs to have input on this, because I think
Okay.
Greg,
and I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. I'm just saying that I think that
it's
she might want to have some oversight.
It's really important for us to talk about whether or not what pieces we need to be co-located, because you're absolutely correct. OpenGov is now being used by it started out being used by the building permit process. That was its first use, but it now
Now it's
covers everything.
Yeah, and they're trying to expand it even more.
Conservation. I mean, and you can pay for stuff. You don't have to go to the town clerk's office. I mean, it has really, and it's not going to get anything but more robust.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a sea change, and in fact, this is one of the things that I've talked about as being a part of the master plan process, is that the way town government's going to function is going to be much different 10 years from now because of AI, and I think that like the Board of Assessors and assessor information and the GIS stuff, and paying your taxes and trying to, to deal with, a tax bill that you think is too high. It's all going to be done differently than what it has been for the last 50 years. It's going to change, it's going to be like night and day different in the next couple of years. And I think that it is absolutely something that the town manager needs to get involved with. I think it's really crucial. I think that we need less square footage for public town functions than what we ever imagined. But we need to have a conversation with the town manager about that to make the transition.
All right. So guys, I hear you well. So let me table that part of the conversation till I can schedule a time. We can schedule a time with the town manager. We'll look for that to be a priority for our next meeting.
Yeah.
To be, to get her input on this. We've had discussions, I believe, I'm going to say, based on my discussions with her, that she does look for things to be co-located. However, I think she agrees that the face of town government is changing, especially with the struggling we have right now with trying to hire people for open positions that we have. That's going to force even more of a change in the dynamic of town government on this thing.
That's a great question, Laura.
Thanks, because I've just been thinking, if half the functions don't require public access, maybe it's time to go back a little bit and look at maybe just renovating Ritter and the existing town hall to keep those buildings going for another 100 years without an addition or with a minimal one. But I think that requires going a few steps backwards, and I'm worried about suggesting recreating efforts that have already been taken. But like Tony said, I think a lot of things have changed because this original committee started pre-COVID and pre-Zoom town meetings.
That's
Mhm.
exactly right.
No kidding.
I was
Hey,
just gonna
Chris-
say that.
I,
The whole COVID thing has changed the whole game too. Like, when I want to meet with the building commissioner in Fitchburg, I don't go down there. I email him and say, can I set up a quick video conference with you? And he just pings me on a video meet. And it's great. You know,
Agree.
it's just as good as going into it's better. I don't have to waste,
More
a
productive.
half an hour round trip. So,
Yeah.
and not to, be disrespectful to anybody, but as we get the younger generations into these positions, I think you're going to see the move towards that advancing. No one younger than me wants to. Well, that's not true. That's a stereotype, but by and large, kids don't want to interact with people, right? They want to interact with machines. So, and then I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that's the trend in society. So I just think a lot of things have changed and are changing.
Okay.
It's not
So-
that we don't want to talk to people. We just want it more efficient. That's the difference. We don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm more talking about, like, my kids. They they just.
Well,
You won't-
and by the way, I'll go one step further. We've talked about this, but the idea of folks drift into town hall and we'll chat with people, and it's taken away their ability to actually do their job. And
Yeah.
can you be impolite and say to a 40-year, 50-year resident of Lunenburg, listen, dude, I can't talk to you.
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
right, and tell them to go away. It's not
No,
going to
you can't.
happen.
Yeah, you
So,
can't do that. Yeah.
but that's the other side of things too. It's
Yeah.
and that's one of the ideas was that's when we discussed. Anyway, I'm not going to get that. So we don't
But,
have a lot of
yeah.
time. We don't have a lot of time today. I'm the guy with the hard stop at 7 today, but so I'm going to ask I'm going to ask before I go into public comment from the public and all that stuff. Next meeting, you guys okay with 2 weeks from today? Same time, same bat time, same bat channel, and things like that.
Right, is that
That's
Columbus Day?
Oh, that's Columbus Day.
I'm not
All
here
right.
then.
No, I'm sorry. It's Indigenous People Day. Are we allowed to say Columbus Day anymore?
Well, my calendar says Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples Day / Thanksgiving Day in Canada.
Yes,
Maybe.
Thanksgiving Day in Canada makes sense because there wasn't going to be a harvest in the middle of November. End of November. Okay, so the 13th is kind of out. School's closed. And then we run into the difficulties of other people and things and things like
Well,
that.
So if you mean planning, in that case, planning is twice a month, not every other week. So 13th would have been a planning board meeting, even though,
Oh,
yeah, because it's the second and fourth Mondays, not every 2 weeks.
gotcha. Okay.
So,
All right.
so
Wanna
if
do a
we were
quick one
looking
next-
at something like the 20th, personally, that's great for me, but I mean, I'm one member of the committee.
20th works for me.
Works for me too.
So
Gotta
far,
work
so
for
good
me.
for me. So far, so good.
Well, let's go the opposite question. Is the 20th bad for anybody? Excellent. Okay. All right, so I'll set the next meeting up for October 20th. The only way it'll change is if our town manager can't make it on the 20th. I think that's going to be the key. So I'm going to look for town manager and facilities director, make sure both of them could be available for that date. Excellent.
Okay, that's good.
All right, so I'm going to move on now to the old wonderful public at the end of the meeting, public comment from the public, and then public comment from the committee. So the folks that are on have made it through this. Any comments, any thoughts you want to add, or you're just happy that you had a chance to participate? That's okay. I'll take silence as that. Just unmute yourself if you want to participate. All right. And then any public comment from the committee members? Yes, Tony.
I got to use my vice chair of the master plan steering committee to start the process of prioritizing capital construction projects.
Excellent.
I'm going to send you a memo for record that I shared with the committee, master plan steering committee last week. Of course, Matt was there. He heard lots of the discussion, but we've actually done a pretty good job of looking at all the town facilities and what would be a candidate for a capital construction project over the next 10 years, which is the window for our master plan update. And we're not done with this prioritization process, but what bubbled to the surface was clearly town administrative functions in Turkey Hill are our number one, number two priorities, or maybe maybe Turkey Hill's number one and the town hall's number two. We haven't finished that process, and we're going to do that at our next meeting. But I think that what we're going to come up with is a prioritized list of projects that will make so much sense out of what we're trying to get done here. And I'm really looking forward to finishing that. I'm going to send the memo that will identify how we sequenced the events that led up to a discussion about project prioritization.
Excellent. Thank you. That's real helpful. And that'll be very beneficial for the committee on that. Excellent. All right. Anybody else have things? Oh, well, I'm sorry. I know I sent you guys a whole bunch of documents, a whole bunch of links and things like that. I am working with town administration to set up a share doc thing. Biggest problem I have is that since I'm not a town, not a town administrator or a town whatever, they don't have a method to make it so that it's secure for me to add and delete documents. So we'll get through that, but I'll set up a shareware for us to kind of start sharing documents. I think there's a lot of great information already done for us, but I think the bigger thing for us is for, to do this, do the due diligence and come up with something completely different more than anything else.
Dave, one point on
Yeah.
that is I had promised to look and see if I could send the DiGiorgio study, and I don't have it on my in my files. I did look. I apologize that I didn't send you a confirmation on that. So I'm not sure where that final report lives, but I don't have it I checked my email from the time period and my folders, and I don't have a copy of it.
So which was DiGiorgio?
DiGiorgio was the first study that we did. After the committee was chartered, they were the first architect that we hired to do the renovation of TCP. And I think that would be a good study to have because they did a deep dive interview with all of the departments and did space needs. They have a space needs table. It was, in fact, I think what we used to get the recent architect here, Taylor and Burns, started. We sort of relied on that data in this last process. I think slightly modified, but I think we started with it and tweaked it a little. So I don't know where that lives.
Bear with me a second here. Hold on.
Does Michael Ray have it? Can we ask him for it, or is that
Well,
not
if
allowed?
we
No,
can't-
it's not Michael Ray. So guys, here's where it lives.
I was going to say it might be on the website. I never looked. Yeah, there it is. The Giorgio Associates. Yep.
Okay, so it's on our website under the TC Passios building project documents is the DiGiorgio final report. Okay.
And that is probably like a multi-100-page document, 400, 500, 600 pages or something. And in there, you'll find the matrices, I think, of how you'll find everything. And that they did.
When is this one from? Oh, it says right there.
21.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So
we hired him a couple months before COVID hit, and we finished it later that year.
in fact, here, if you go with, and that's, by the way, some of the smaller documents I sent you on space needs was based on, was taken from this study moving forward. So,
Right, space needs analysis right there.
right, yeah.
So it
I would be
starts to go
cautious
into-
about using this stuff. I looked at the Brooks House and they had the wrong square footage on the Brooks House. When I opened up I think it was the Vertex study, they had the Brooks House at 10,000 square feet. Brooks House is not 10,000 square feet.
No.
You know, so I
Yeah,
think,
but at least it's a starting point, though. If
It
it
is,
anything,
but-
if it anything, it gives us an outline of what
Yeah.
we need to fill in.
but it reflects a time of business that we're clearly moving away from.
That's true, but at least it's
Yeah,
at least be helpful in informing everybody.
right. And like I said, I'm not gonna go, I shouldn't be going through this whole thing, so let me get rid of that and go back to, but it's there, so I'm okay with that. All right, let's see, all right. Hey, I'm at that point where I'm gonna say, anything else from anybody, or do I have somebody I'm entertaining motions?
Motion to-
adjourn?
Second,
Okay, all right, I guess I gotta do roll call vote and all that stuff, so, okay. Laura, since you started us off, I'm gonna say,
Yes.
all right, Matt, you were the second, so,
aye.
all right, Brian,
Aye.
okay, Greg,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Tony,
Hi.
okay, Christina?
Aye.
Okay, excellent. I think we have everybody then. And I appreciate your time, guys. I'm sure we'll be doing things before, but if not, we will speak to you all on the 20th.
Great.
All right.
Sorry,
Sounds
quick
good.
question.
Oh,
we're
no, it's
going-
over. No, I'm only kidding you, Christina. Go ahead.
For Wednesday, if we want to go to the Brooks House, where should we meet? Like
At
the
I'm
library
sorry,
parking behind it?
Both dates just meet at the Brooks House. So whether you want to be standing on the front porch or, just at some, parking in the library parking lot and be waiting, but it'll be, you'll see, Mr. Ruth and probably myself coming up there right around noon.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And it's going to be the same thing for Tuesday. Just meet at the Brooks House.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Have a good evening, everybody.
You got it.